What's up, my dudes? I should be studying for finals, but I'm gonna make a video right now instead because someone asked me to. I really quickly wanted to give my opinions on mobility and how basically it comes down to, for me, motion selection. Prefacing this with, I am certainly not against static stretching. If anything, I'm very in favor of it, even though it's one of those things that's fallen by the wayside in terms of popular support. Due to some shoddy studies about force output after stretching, the first thing you have to realize about those studies is the time between the stretch being performed and the force output is very quick. Whereas I don't know about you, but it takes me a fucking minute to get up to a top set. And so I'm until there's a study examining on when that strength, where that strength curve comes back, because I have the belief it's not that long. You know, if it's 20 minutes between my stretching, my dynamic warm-ups to top set, and that's very generous, then I would need to see a study about that before I start to actually examine it. And people are like, oh, but static stretching only yields temporary mobility gains. Well, the workout is temporary. If I can hit proper positions through the workout because of static stretched, I'm certainly going to do it. And there's no reason you can't do both dynamic and static stretching, because everybody loves to jerk off about how great dynamic stretches are. But then coming later into this, like, people often, I'm fairly mobile, I would like to think, for how much I weigh, which is not a ton, but 220, and I still carry a fair amount of mobility, and I think a lot of that comes down to motion selection. Specifically loaded stretching. Running through end range, building strength and end range of motion is going to yield longer term mobility. Now I'm going to preface this again with the fact that none of this is my discoveries. A lot of this is stripped from the Muscle Doc on Instagram. Jordan Shallow is someone I certainly listen to a lot and I'm a fan of. And if you don't, I would like to check. You should check out his podcast. But it comes down to, like, if I stretch my hamstrings right now, after a solid couple minutes of stretching, I'll be able to get my palms to the floor pretty easily. But I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll be stiff again and we'll have to do it over again. Whereas if I increase my strength in my hamstrings in that end range, I'll tend to wake up more mobile with something like an RDL or like a deficit RDL with dumbbells or something. And following the similar principle, you can do that with a lot of things. You know, if you're really tight all the time and struggle to hit depth on a squat, like a solid high bar ass to grass pause squat to build strength in those very end range of motion tends to make it so you need less prep to get into those positions the next time. And I think it goes a very long way in terms of both hypertrophy due to the longer range of motion, but at the same time, you're kind of hitting three birds with one stone. You're strengthening end ranges, you're reducing your injury risk and all that. It's genuine, just regular strength training. Another example of this in a less extreme degree is Dan Green's use of deficit stiff leg deadlifts. I think it's much the same. He's building hamstring strength at absolute end range. And then that makes a conventional deadlift a mid-range lift compared to his strength curve, or strength across his mobility levels, or strength across range of motion. And I think it reduces injury risk. It makes it so he probably doesn't need to stretch out a ton to go do conventional deadlifts. And overall, I think it's also just a great posterior chain builder. So more specific examples of this is, like, one I use sparingly would be a dumbbell pec fly to open up your chest, especially people who have issues with their pecs cramping or tweaking them all the time. I think increasing strength at end ranges tends to go a pretty long way in terms of mitigating that. Like I said, the high bar pause squats tend to be useful. Some sort of extended range of motion hip hinge is the staple for me. Walking lunges to keep your hip flexors healthy rather than just stretching them out or like rolling them. You're actively using them through a full range of motion under load tends to elicit like an actual physiological response, not just like a neurological response. I'm kind of making this up as I go, if you couldn't tell, so this is going to be a shitty video, but that's about all I got. Any questions, direct them to me on Instagram at Shether, Shetthar, at Instagram.com.